all here together. Thank you so much for joining us. I know we've all kind of been chatting, but just to kind of reintroduce myself, my name is Virginia Anzengruber. I am the Content and Communications Manager at Fountain Street Church here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. But I also was actually one of the archive assistants on the documentary. I got to spend quite a bit of time just really exploring the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame digital archives for a few weeks, which was honestly like some of the most fun work I've ever done. So it is just truly an honor to have all of you here and joining us. And like I kind of said before, we are doing this as part of the Learning Commons at Fountain Street Church, which is a pilot program that really focuses on alternative education opportunities. And in this partnership with Grand Rapids Community Media Center, which Sarah is a representative of, their mission is very much focused on providing low cost and free opportunities for media literacy in West Michigan and beyond. So we're recording this right now. We're going to be releasing it on YouTube. And we really hope that with a lot of these events that we do, we're really getting to the thread of connection with people. And music is such a broad, sweeping way to connect because, you know, even if we don't know the language, we feel the beat of music, we feel the rhythm of music, we feel the harmony of music. And I think that that, especially in a time like now where we are so often, you know, especially right now, we are physically divided, right? But more than ever, I think we've been able to really just lean into and connect to storytelling and art in a way that, you know, maybe we took for granted before. And so more than ever, I'm so grateful that we're able to have the opportunity to talk about this documentary, talk about the work that you gentlemen have done and what you've given to the music community at large, because I know that songs that I've listened to that came out in the last decade were influenced so heavily by what the three of you have brought to the music community in America. So I'm so thrilled to be here. I am going to throw it over to Sarah for just a quick second, just so that she can tell us a little bit more about Grand Rapids Community Media Center. And then we'll just get going with some questions. We've had a couple more people join us. So Kathy, nice to see you. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. Hi. All right, take it away, Sarah.
Sweet. Thank you, Virginia. Yeah, so I'm Sarah Nawrocki. For those who weren't on the conversation before we really dove into it, I'm the director of a historic theater in Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is called Wealthy Theater. It was built in 1911 and is still standing. So we're part of a larger nonprofit called the Community Media Center, and our mission is to build community through media. So we have a couple different platforms aside from the theater where you could do live performances, concerts, movie screenings, or film discussions. We also have a community radio station where a lot of our local artists really get into the scene and get the exposure they need to go on to, you know, be huge successes like you guys. And we have a public access station, a journalism platform, so multimedia for sure. And so I'm just incredibly honored that I get to be here virtually surrounded with so many talented people, whether it's music, filmmaking, anything. So I'm honored to be here. I'm so thrilled to be able to help boost the signal of this very important and enlightening documentary as well. We were playing some good old classic Doo Wop on our radio station today. We're, you know, pushing the movie as best we can. And yeah, just excited to get into the discussion with you guys. So thank you for having me.
Yay. Oh, so glad you're here. So I'm just going to get right into it because we kind of, and Sarah can echo this, we get real nerdy on these real quick. So I'm just going to hit you with some questions. So Sammy, Terry, Vito, this question is specifically for you. I kind of talked about it a tiny bit just now, but music can be a solo venture, right? You can be a solo artist. You can produce something from top to bottom on your own. Doo-wop music and harmony is dependent on teamwork. It's dependent on another person. It's music that's made with someone outside of yourself. So with that in mind, with knowing that it's an interdependent expression of music, how does that affect how you, you know, make it and how you perform and how you approach the creative process maybe differently than if you're working independently? And whoever wants to jump in first can.
Terry, you want to?
Sure, I'll grab it first. To me, harmony is my life. because when I had my group in Baltimore, that's where I'm from, I had my group, The Whispers, and the whole thing was like I play guitar, and I love the different chord structures that I can feel on my guitar. So I do that with voices. So my group, The Whispers, we had 2 hits, Are You Sorry and Fool Heart in Love. And then I joined the Flamingos in '56. And that was a dream come true because like I had all different kind of voices that I could work with. And to me, it's the structure of harmonies that make a song. You know what I mean? I know we were known for our harmonies, because harmony is more than just first tenor, second tenor, baritone, and bass. It's how you structure it, you know. Because like sometimes I would be singing first tenor and I would drop down to baritone, and somebody else would take my note. That was the secret that we had that other people couldn't figure out. They thought they could follow what we were doing, but that was just the way that my guitar was telling me to, you know, to teach it to the guys and myself. So, you know, answer it?
I had an introduction probably a little differently. And of course, you sing along with the radio and you sing along with with the music you like, of course, you know, but you always did this with the words and the melody, never really with the harmony. But I was a class clown in school, and in the 8th grade, I got punished for doing something I shouldn't have been doing, and the punishment was to join the Glee Club, and the way it turned out, we had just had a beautiful woman, a Jamaican woman, that came and took over the 8th grade, and she was running the Glee Club, and what she would do is she would take the individuals, you know, the sections that she had broke us into. When she would speak to us, she would know our speaking voices. She would put the baritones with the baritones, the sopranos with the sopranos, et cetera, et cetera. And she would work with us just with those particular individuals. We would learn one part only, never knowing what the other guys and the girls were doing. So the windup was that after she did that for every different segment of that chords that she was looking for, or actually that harmony that she was looking for, she brought us into the study hall one day, and we all went in and started to sing, only knowing what she taught us. And all of a sudden, when I heard the others doing what they were taught, and it all blended together, it completely knocked me out. I was in love with harmony from that day on. That was 70 years ago, and I'm still feeling it. I love harmony. I love to play. I love playing with diminished chords. I love change. I love doing ninths. I like doing things like that. I had a little experience in the 4th grade. I was handed a trombone in the New York Board of Education music program because I was the tallest kid in the class. I could reach the last position, you know. So, so I did learn a little musical, structure, and it's everything that I love about singing. It's more the harmony than it is the leads.
Yeah, good.
Well,
I see, Vito, I didn't know you played all those instruments. You played bass and guitar?
No, I can strum away a few chords. I can play some stuff. I've written some stuff, by playing the chords, but pretty basic, just the blues progressions and things like that.
Cool.
But playing a brass instrument, really, it was a hindrance to me learning how to really play and do something. I write strangely. I've got probably 1,000 songs laying around somewhere, at least 30 that were published, and never sat down and wrote a note. I sang it. It was in my head. It was in my head. If I put it in the drawer, if I asked you or invited you to the house today and asked you to pull out one piece of paper with words on it, I would sing the melody to that song that I haven't sung in 70 years.
That's good.
I don't know what that is. It's it's like maybe like Rain Man. It's just, you never know. Never know.
Well, cool. I had no musical training at all. As a matter of fact, I got kicked out of school when I was 16 years old, and I happened to sing by chance. I was sitting on the stoop, and this guy that I knew from my old neighborhood turned the corner with this horse and buggy selling vegetables. And he asked me, did I know the 2 guys that we were previously going to sing with? And I said, yeah, I know Paul Fulton and Teddy Black. Well, we're starting a group. Oh, yeah? Can you sing first tenor? Yeah. And I went to rehearsal. This was probably in maybe April. I liked what I heard, and I didn't even know I could sing, really. And I started harmonizing. I was singing first tenor, believe it or not. And Teddy Back sang lead, Paul Fulton sang bass. And about probably that December, no, it was Thanksgiving. That Thanksgiving, we had recorded probably, it took us about 2 months to record. We recorded a record called Rubber Biscuit. That was my first time playing Apollo Theater. And that started the ball rolling, but I had no formal training at all. I didn't know what I was doing.
Well, I love that because that's the best example of they ask you, can you sing it? And even though you maybe weren't ready, you could, and you did. You know, I like that confidence of like, sometimes you just have to step into things. And I think that was actually a really interesting thread of the documentary too, was kind of the idea that not everybody was coming from a formally trained background musically. So when you talk about, Sammy, when you talk about the recording process, and this is again open up to all of you fellas, when we talk about the recording process, especially when we're talking about the 50s in general, that obviously was a completely different time in the music industry from the way that records were being produced. So do you guys have any like fun stories or memories of just kind of like how quick and fast paced that time period was? Because like you said, you kind of went in and then all of a sudden, you mentioned earlier, then you were doing radio spots and then you were touring and then you were back on and recording again. And so talk a little bit about maybe that process for you guys.
To me, I gotta say this, like, I think all three of us can remember doing a little recording, going to the studio and recording, whoever was recording us, and waiting by the radio or in a car. And you, first thing you saw, that's it. I know we did, you know, like,
yeah, we did.
What about you, Vito?
We were looking for bragging rights in the neighborhood. Nobody was looking for money. We weren't even thinking about money or anything. It was just
right.
And I was 15. Yeah, I had 15 years old, 14 years old. I had formed my first group in 1955. Wow. I recorded my first record in 1956 with a group called the Crescents, and and that's where I first met Tony Middleton. We've been friends ever since with the Willows, you know. And that record was short-lived. We went on a promotional tour, which seemed to be, you know, we thought it was going to be all over the world, but it was at Connecticut and Rhode Island. That's as far as we got. And we did the Audubon Ballroom, which to do the Audubon Ballroom with 4 white kids in 1955, 56, it was unbelievable. The Audubon Ballroom is smack in the middle of Harlem. It's where and Hal Jackson was a young disc jockey. It was his show at the time, you know. And as things would turn out, our manager, I don't know what his problem was or why it happened, but he owned a record company, and he was shot and killed in the Lower East Side of New York. And we found ourselves with no record company, no manager, and we didn't know what to do. So the group disbanded, but 2 of us wanted to continue. We found a couple of other guys in the neighborhood that wanted to sing. We put together what was then called the Elegants, and we started knocking on doors. The Heartbeats being my, I'm sorry to say this, I love the Flamingos. The Heartbeats were my idols at all times. So I wound up going to Hull Records that they were with, auditioned live. We did get a contract, and we signed with Hull Records. And then Shep became my mentor for a while, and I even took the Rat-Tat-Tats in the background of Little Star because of 1,000 Miles Away Rat-Tat-Tats. I took a little Heartbeats and brought it with me. You know, the Avons and the Pastels were on that label, so I was in paradise. My voice is not a powerful voice; it was always a melodic, flowing voice, and I was in the Garden of Eden. I had, you know, I had the toughest singers in the world.
That's great, man. That's great.
I can believe that. Yeah.
Yeah. But
so that was another brief mention in the doc that I thought was funny, but everybody had a really similar response, which was, "We did this for the girls. We did it for the girls."
Yeah.
True.
I think the thing that strikes me so much about Doo Wop, and that really resonates, and why I still, you know, even before kind of Theresa and Brent were working on this project, there are still songs that I grew up listening to. This music transcends decades and generations, absolutely. The beginning of all of your careers were so tough. Vito, you just talked about knocking on doors, you know, to get people to listen to you. You guys were literally singing on street corners to get people to listen to you. You're touring all the time. You're, you know, rehearsing 6 days a week, 12 to 6, you know, and then just going out. What kind of advice would you give to artists that are trying to break into their respective fields today? I mean, we can narrow it down to music, but that work ethic, obviously we still need to transcend that, but in this new realm, what advice could you give to artists who maybe have been doing it for a while and haven't had their big break, but still have that love and that drive and that need to be musicians and artists?
Terry, I was going to say, Terry could probably answer that, because that end of the music business has totally eluded me. I mean, I haven't really been looking to do any recordings in a while. The only recordings we do are for our fans, you know, the fan base that still does it. And we usually have them at the shows that we do. But it's so difficult. I mean, you talk about live auditioning, you know, now I couldn't even begin to tell you how these kids do it.
I couldn't either. I agree. It's hard. But, you know, to me, if you have the love for music in your heart, you just keep trying. Like you said, you knocked on doors, so did we. Yeah. You know, we knocked on doors, so we found the right ones. Sammy, you know what I'm talking about.
And listen, I was spoiled somewhat, because the very first time we knocked on the door, we actually recorded Rubber Biscuit. So
okay.
And I had a hit record. Well, you know what? I had a hit record out of the box, but it took years before I got another hit record with different groups, right? And I didn't strike gold again until I sang with Lil Anthony and the Imperials, which was 9 years later.
Right.
Because I was like 16 when I recorded my first hit record, but I had sang with the Fantastics, the Impacts, and then by the time I got with the Imperials, it was about 8 years later, and we weren't with Anthony at the time. And we did some recording also. Then Teddy Randazzo popped on the scene, and we started recording adult contemporary music, and we struck gold with Hurt So Bad, Going Out of My Head, and Outside Looking In, back to back. You know what I'm saying? So we got hit records, and then that started the longevity career. You know what I'm saying? And it hasn't stopped ever since.
We were signed to United Artists, well, at the same time you were, matter of fact. And Don Costa was the A&R guy there.
Yeah.
And when you did those, you know, when you started doing those songs, I actually was jealous. You know, I said, you know,
everybody was.
We were right there. I said, you know, and I knew Teddy, you know, and I'm saying, but he knew what he was doing. Those songs went to the right people, and you guys did it.
Yeah,
a great job on it.
We were very fortunate, because Lil Anthony and the Imperials first had their major hits in the 50s, to be 1958 to be exact. Yeah. And I had started singing in 1956.
Yeah.
But when Teddy Randazzo and Don Costa started DCP Records, which was a production company, right. We were very fortunate because I had known Teddy when he was in the Three Chuckles, and I had known Don Costa. For some reason, we had met. So immediately when they had a company, Ernie Martinelli was our manager, and Ernie Martinelli said, "Well, listen, we're gonna try Don Costa Productions." And when we went into the office, Teddy had a couple of songs really written for us already, right? So it was like a natural fit.
Yeah.
You know, the best part about that is, you know, Ernest, your guy Ernest, Sammy, you know, Ernest lives on Staten Island, lives out here with me in Staten Island.
Yeah, absolutely, you know?
Right. And he teases me all the time that, you know, Tears on My Pillow never made #1 because Little Star kept them out. Little Star was #1 in 1958. He says, "I'll never ever forgive you for that," he said, you know. But I want to tell him I never want to forgive you for doing the songs on United Artists.
Yeah, right.
I heard that.
Well, Brent, I've got a question for you if you're up for it.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So you, well, obviously, you know, we've known each other for a while, and I know you've been working on this documentary for quite some time, you and Theresa. Documentary filmmaking is so different from narrative filmmaking. It oftentimes can be a lot more laborious, a lot more long-term, because you're working to tell such a large story, right? Like the ground that you covered in the doc was so expansive. With that, what advice can you give to filmmakers to kind of keep plugging away, right? Like when you're into multiple years of a production, it can kind of, I'm sure, you know, maybe feel a little daunting at times. Like what advice do you have to stay focused and kind of keep pushing through and still finding that, you know, same core passion that drove you to begin?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the only advice you could give is I would never work on a project that you just didn't have a passion for. I mean, I love this music. I fell in love with these artists as we started to interview them. And Theresa and Tim and I, we all felt an obligation to tell their story just because we loved them and we loved the music. And if I was working on something like Tiger King or something like that, you'd have to pay me a ton of money to keep me up.
Yeah, right. You were very easy to work with.
That's the other thing too. The fact that you feel that way, you know, and Theresa too. You guys made it so comfortable for us to do that documentary.
Yeah.
That it actually became almost like a family event. I don't forget. I had just come out of the hospital. I had just had a quintuple bypass. And I was like, only, just dragging myself along. But you guys stuck with me. You hung with me. You made me feel comfortable. And I'll never, ever forget it. I always appreciated that. And it was the love of what you guys do that actually transformed over to what made this thing as good as it is. And thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
And
it just was pure passion, Virginia. And I think if any other filmmaker doesn't have it, they are
Right.
There are easier ways to make a dollar.
Yeah, right.
I think the other thing too is that, you know, for young filmmakers, it doesn't happen overnight. So, you know, we worked on putting the doc together for a long time, and then at the same time, and you can't give up because, you know, and then luckily Gravitas came along, loved the doc as much as we did. And so we found a way to get it out to the public. So it doesn't happen overnight. Once you finish it, it may take you a while to find your distributor. But I think that's the thing. You just gotta hang in there and believe that this story should be told. And now there's a lot of people getting great feedback from all over the world, really, of people who are watching this film.
100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Come on.
Yeah, we're 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That is like such a rare small group of people. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm truly proud of you, Theresa, because
thank you.
It's been 5 years. It's been
Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah, it was.
You hung in there. I mean, you pushing, and kudos to you. You know,
Thank you.
Through because you're
Has
hard
it been
work.
5 years? Has it been 5 years?
We started it in 2015. Yeah.
I remember because I was still living in LA at the time too. And
Yeah.
It's 3 years.
It's when you were 20 years old, Sammy.
Yeah.
Sarah, did you have a question to piggyback off of that?
Yeah, well, just to piggyback off of it, as somebody who was not involved in this film particularly and just solely a viewer, the love and passion that you guys are all talking about came out so prominently in this film. Like you could tell that the story was crafted with pure love. The artists that were involved spoke from their heart, and it was really inspiring, especially not having a music background. Oh my gosh, it made me want to just turn on some Doo Wop. I was flipping through the 45s, finding it. So thank you guys for that.
You know what? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead.
No, the best part about it is that there's a mutual admiration society. I mean, I could sit in the wings and I do it. I mean, if I'm working with Terry, you know, and I'll sit in the wings and watch him, and I'll walk away with my mouth open every time. And the same thing with Sammy and the guys. You know, we know each other for 60 some odd years. I'll still park myself in the corner and watch them, and I always walk away with something. I always try to learn, and if I always try to learn, I want to learn from the best. and you're looking at for the best right here. I mean, I've always been proud to work with them and to know them.
Thank you so much for saying that. Thank you very much.
Same here.
No, it's true. It's true. I've been on three ends of the spectrum. You know, I actually also, you know, I had a booking agency for years,
Right.
you know, and I booked both acts. And, you know, I did that with confidence. I knew that when those dates were going to come, they were going to perform, and the buyers were going to get their money's worth plus. So I never had that problem. I knew what I was selling when I was telling the promoter, you know, that this is the act they should use. When Anthony got back together and Sammy, when they first got back with Ernie, I got them their first date back as the original Imperials.
All right.
You know, and then when Terry got back together, and he had a couple of guys, I was afraid that you might have been insulted when I had said to you, with the combination of people you had, was more like a Broadway type of an act, and you made some changes and you did what you had to do, and you are definitely one of the best, if not the best act out there right now too. So I'm very happy that I saw both of those things in the two of you. I also managed Force MDs for a while.
That's right.
You know, so I took it right to the hip hop level.
Okay.
And those kids wound up setting up In Sync and Backstreet Boys and all that. They were just ahead of their time.
That's right.
Yeah.
Those were kids from Staten Island that did what we did. They were singing on the Staten Island Ferry, rehearsing for 5 cents to go across. We had a rehearsal studio for 5 cents. You know.
You're right.
Yeah.
I think rehearsal studios cost a little bit more these days.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
It costs less now because the Staten Island Ferry is free.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, right.
point made, Vito. Point made. So, kind of to take what you were just talking about, Vito, and go in a similar direction. What is your favorite thing about performing live? Obviously, right now we're doing a lot of things socially distancing, but what is your favorite thing about live performance?
Being backstage with the people I'm talking to right now. That's more importantly to me.
It is.
I don't mean it to be disrespectful to the fan base, because we do our job when we get up there, and I do everything I can for that half hour or an hour or whatever I'm out there to satisfy the people out there and give them their money's worth. But the enjoyment that I have is backstage, just with the camaraderie with people that have become family of mine.
Yeah. You always keep us laughing. You have a million jokes. You got a million jokes, I'm telling you. I can't wait every time I get around you. Tell me something else. Yeah, Vito.
I talked to Sam, and Dave said, you know, he won't work with me anymore. He says, because he laughs so hard his jaws hurt, he can't sing.
Can't sing. Yeah.
Sammy, you were saying something?
Oh yeah, no, I was going to say, well, I love the audience because especially the bigger the better. So 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, a magic occurs in those places. And between the artist and the stage, and there's nothing like it. I mean, I call it's a natural magic too. It's just, you could do no wrong.
You can be hoarse and go out there and your voice comes back. It comes back immediately.
It comes back.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, right.
I had botched surgery on my vocal cords years ago. I had to adapt my whole style of singing and lower the keys a little bit and do what I had to do it. But the personality goes on, and you go on, and all of a sudden you get plugged in. I mean, I wanted to sue the doctor that botched up and screwed up, but unfortunately he died in a car accident. He suffocated in the trunk of my car.
I was so following that until the end.
Something along the Irishman.
Well, I'm wondering if you guys can maybe tell us about some of your favorite performances when you were on stage.
I hate to grab all the, you know, I don't want to talk too much. The guys have to give them a shot here, but we sang in Hawaii. We were asked to go to Hawaii. It was the biggest selling record in the history of the Hawaiian Islands in 1958. And we got off the plane. There were no chutes. We jumped down off the tarmac, and all the kids, they closed the schools. All the kids were on the tarmac waiting for us and everything. But while I was singing there, we did the show at the Civic Auditorium. We followed Elvis into the Civic Auditorium. And we were, a soldier came, was an attaché to the commanding officer of the Schofield Barracks. And he asked us if we would do a free concert for the soldiers at the barracks. Hawaii was not a state in 1958.
Right.
So we were thrilled to death to do it for the kids that were away from home, out of the country. And we went up there and we did it. And it pitch dark, thousands and thousands of soldiers out there. And I opened the line with "Where Are You, Little Star," which is the beginning of my song.
Yeah.
As I said, "Where are you, little star," a voice came from the darkness and said, "Dungan Hill, Staten Island, Vito. Newdorp, Staten Island, Vito." Kids were yelling out. Then the next thing I went, "Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, Vito. Jersey City, Vito." They were yelling out their hometowns. I couldn't sing. I got choked up.
Yeah.
So some 30 some odd years later, I got a call actually from Ernie Martinelli. And Ernie asked me if I would do a concert in Rhode Island, and he gave me the date, and I wasn't available. He called me back an hour later. He says, "I got another date." That wasn't available either. We were busy, and I couldn't do it. So he said to me, "Well, is there a date that you have that you're not working?" So I gave him a date. Called up. He called the promoter. The promoter said, "I'll take it." When I got there, we did the show, and I went to get paid. I went in his office, and I asked the guy, I said, "Let me ask you a question. You could have had anybody here," and it was a brand new facility that he opened up, and he had a marina, he had condos, he had amusement park and a skating rink. And I said, "You could have had anybody. Why did you?" He said, "I want to tell you why I wanted to open with you." He said, "I was 18 years old. I was stationed in Hawaii. And you came and did a free concert in the barracks." He says, "And I cried, and everybody in the audience was hysterical. And I swore that if I ever got in a position to pay you back, I would. And I was very, very fortunate and became very wealthy. And I wanted to have you open up this particular venture."
That's so nice.
That's a great story.
So nice.
That's a great story. Wow.
It's really great.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's my most.
Vito, I could just listen to you talk all day long.
I know.
My mother was 99 years old when she passed away, and she used to tell me for all my whole life, "Can you ever shut your mouth?"
I get that a lot, Vito, in our staff meetings. Occasionally, my boss will be like, "Okay, you're done, right? Okay, good." So Terry and Sammy, what about you?
What was the question?
Favorite performance.
Let me see.
I'm sorry, favorite performance?
Well, now, yeah, favorite performance that you've done, but really, Sammy, I'm just trying to get you to tell us the Elvis story in a roundabout way, too.
That's a good idea.
He talked so much he got dementia.
I don't have any one favorite performance because there's so many. I mean, there's so many with both groups, The Elvis story. Okay, first of all, when we were singing in Las Vegas with Elvis, we were at the fights together. And this, tell you how long ago it was. Muhammad Ali was still Muhammad Ali. He was Cassius Clay. And we went to a fight, and the side door opened up, and I saw these two guys, and they was looking, and all of a sudden, Elvis Presley appeared. And it probably was about 4,000 people in the place. And he had on a cape, he had on this gold belt, he had a gold beretta in the belt, and he looked like Batman. Right. Well, anyway, we were sitting about 5 seats behind him, and he looked around, and Kenny Seymour was wearing a Superman shirt. And Elvis Presley said, "I knew Superman was black." Elvis Presley, he climbed over both chairs, and we sat down, and we had the wonderful time with him. He took apart his gun. He let us hold the belt, and the next night he promised to come to our show. Well, he couldn't come to the show, so he sent his some ladies, and as a matter of fact, he sent a Priscilla. As a matter of fact, and we sent them. I think we sent him. Oh, I know what happened. He put on a karate exhibition for us in his suite.
A karate exhibition? Like he was demonstrating karate to you?
Absolutely.
Was he wearing the cape?
Oh, no. Okay, first of all, Elvis Presley used to hang out with the Memphis Mafia. So a whole lot of guys was in the suite, and he was just showing us a couple of moves, but he was pretty good, and he did about 15, 20 minutes of the exhibition.
I kind of love the idea that he was just like a kid performing for his parents in the living room, but was like showing you guys his karate moves. Like that's what I'm picturing in my mind, is just Elvis being like, no, let me show you some more cool moves, guys. Yeah. Like,
well, yeah, it was similar to that.
Well, you should have sly wrapped him and give him one of the shots from the hood. I'll show you what we do. I'll show you what we do in Fort Greene. Bang.
Sammy, there's one story that I love too, is when you perform with Dan Aykroyd, and you actually got to do Rubber Biscuit. Yeah, I love that story.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot all about that. We actually performed with the Blues Brothers. What I did at the in Atlantic City at the I forgot the name of the hotel. But anyway, I actually sang on stage with Dan Aykroyd, and I sang Rubber Biscuit with the Blues Brothers.
You mentioned Kenny Seymour. Kenny wrote one of my songs. He wrote a song that I recorded called "I've Seen Everything," and Kenny was great talent. His son right now is the musical director for Ain't Misbehavin' on Broadway.
No. He's currently in The Temptations. Ain't Too Proud.
Ain't Too Proud. What did I just say?
Yeah. Ain't Misbehaving.
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. That's what I meant. Not Ain't Misbehaving. What the hell would he be doing in that show?
Yeah.
No, ain't too Proud. He's the musical director of what Ain't Too Proud, right?
Listen, I've seen the show twice. I've seen it twice.
I'm still in touch with Mary. His mother, Mary, good friend of mine. Mary was with Musique, and she sang with Musique for a while.
oh wow.
You're not telling me that, are you?
No. I'm just tying in the loose ends here.
Yeah. Listen, I know Mary very well.
Oh yeah, love her. I love Mary. One of my favorite people.
You can see, Virginia, why these interviews we did went on for so long.
No, but I love it. Honestly, this is like my favorite kind of conversation and format.
Hundreds of hours of interviews with these guys, because it was just always story after story. And
hey, Virginia, how far is Grand Rapids from Macomb, Michigan?
Oh my God, I don't even know. That sounds like a town too small for me to know. I'm not from here. I married a Michigan man, Vito. He brought me here. It's very cool.
I have a ton of relatives out there. They're all originally from Detroit. Then they moved to Mount Clemens, and then from Mount Clemens are out of Macomb County, out that way.
So if you're looking at the mitten, we are like right here. So we're like, we are right here. Thank you, Sarah.
Yes, I think Macomb County, is over by Detroit. So we're about 2 hours away.
Okay, about 2 hours. Yeah. We're about 3 hours from Chicago, 2 hours from Detroit. I am not native, so I very rarely try to give directions. Terry, getting back to our question from Sarah, what's maybe not the favorite, but what's a favorite memory of when, and any of your performances, that you've done?
One of my favorites was, we were on this long tour, and who was on the tour was the most excited, because I was still very young. I was a baby in the Flamingos, so I was really young. We were on this tour, and it's James Brown, Roy Hamilton, Sam Cooke, just big names like that. And my mouth is just open. And Sam, when he would get on the stage, and it would just flow from him. It's like, where did he get that voice from? Like, and James Brown, he comes behind, but he comes first. And he just puts the thing down with his dancing and his screaming and his ow and his splits and everything. I'm talking about, and I was just mesmerized by all these great superstars, because I was still young in the business as far as, really getting out there with the big shows. And that was something I'll never forget. And I know it was about a 30-day tour, 31 nighters. So that's why I understand what Sammy's talking about. All those one-nighters, they can wear you out, but it's so much fun, traveling and doing that.
That was the GAC tours, the General Artist Tours. And those tours there, we would do 30 days in 30 states. We did it with Buddy Holly and you know, and Clyde McPhatter, and we were 20 acts, I think, at the time. And not many people knew that tour was run by Irving Feld, who used to run the Barnum and Bailey Circus. He used to run all those tours.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure did, yeah.
And Irving Feld did all, but it was General Artists Corporation. Matter of fact, Ernie Martinelli used to work for GAC.
Right.
Before he left and opened up his own office.
Yeah.
You know? But all the acts, the rock and roll acts started to sign with GAC because the big names were already signed with William Morris. They would gobble up everything, and so all of a sudden there was a void there, and GAC saw it and they jumped on it and signed 99% of the 50s acts. You know, well, I say 50s, but I don't like to use the word doo wop acts. It's you know, most of the acts are not really doo wops, but during that era, the early rock, the pioneers of rock, they all pretty much signed with GAC at the same time.
Right, absolutely.
We were with was Associated Booking, Joe Glazer.
Yeah.
Yeah. He kept us really moving.
Yeah.
Did a lot of things in Hawaii. Did some things in Tokyo.
Yeah.
I hate that trip, man. That was like a 14, 15-hour trip.
Well, there was a different situation. You had, when you did Only Have Eyes for You, you crossed over and you really opened up a whole new world for yourselves.
Yeah.
Same thing with the guys with the Imperials, with Going Out of My Head, and and on the outside looking in, they jumped into another world. We didn't have that opportunity. We tried to crack that there, but we were labeled, you know, pretty much as a doo-wop act or a 50s act, and it was kind of difficult.
Well, you know what happened? During the time when we recorded Going Out of My Head and Outside Looking, It Hurt So Bad, TV was open to those acts. Before, in the 50s, they weren't. You know,
that's the difference.
It was just radio.
Now you could do Ed Sullivan, you could do Lloyd Thaxton.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So, but prior to that, you didn't have that kind of exposure. You know?
No, you're right. It's 100% right. We had Jocko.
Jocko, my man. Yeah.
We had Jocko. You had Alan Freed.
You
know, and you had Clay. Well, Clay Cole came a little later from me.
I mean, so therefore, you were open to a wider audience. I mean, 8 million people saw you at one time on Ed Sullivan.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And then a couple of days later, you did Lloyd Thaxton. That was nationwide.
Yeah. Good point. Good point.
And Hullabaloo. So then millions of people watched you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You had good shots, Vito.
Oh, and what?
You had some good shots.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It was difficult to a degree. We also at one point, we were vulnerable at the age because the Army drafted at that time. 2 of the guys got drafted, and it started to, disassemble what we had. We got caught in that hole right at that crossover time for us. Made it kind of difficult for us to succeed. I tried to do a little solo career, and then I had an accident where I lost the vision in my left eye, and that kept me out for years. So it was very hard to rebound. In 1 year in this business, if you're out, 10,000 acts came in while you were napping.
That's right.
You're right.
You could become old. You become old very, very quickly.
That's right.
Well, I was going to say, Vito, when I was doing a little bit more research on you, though, I don't know if anybody else can say that they were in Goodfellas and The Sopranos. So.
And Irishman.
Yeah.
Irishman.
I call him VP, Vice President.
Yeah.
Filmography right there, Vito. I'm just saying.
I'd like to say it was more than what it was, but I was signed on to do more, but 13, 14 days, and you're up there killing yourself from 5 a.m. to 11 o'clock at night. And then when they start cutting and everything, and you find out, you got 1 second here and 2 minutes there. It's,
right.
It's a little disheartening,
I know.
But the fact is that, I'm there. They kept using my name too. I was always Vito.
Right.
I was Vito.
Good name, man. Vito. An Italian name. Vito. Vito.
I felt like Lassie, Lassie played by Lassie. you see the credits at the end, But it's something my grandkids could take a look at, and that made me very, very happy.
Yeah, right.
That's fine. That's fine.
Well, Theresa, I have just one question for you. I know you kind of wanted to hang out and just kind of chat, but I got a question for you. You obviously, you've known me since I was a baby, but I have also gotten to watch you have this fantastic life and career. And in the time that I've been alive, you've been a teacher, and then all of a sudden then you were doing music, and then you were vice president of Right Entertainment Group, and then you know, A&R with Britney Spears, like, and then I found out one day from Elisa, your daughter, that you used to be a bodybuilder. So let's talk about how your journey has really led you to kind of interweave, because, you know, you've been in artist management. You know, we talk about like different larger artists. You've done artists that are songwriters. You've done artists that are performers. You know, you have done kind of the full spectrum of both music and film. So I'm not going to ask the question in the way that most people do, because I hate it as a female identifying person, but as a woman filmmaker, as a woman artist, as a woman entrepreneur, business person, what has your experience been like, and what kind of, I don't know, what little wisdom would you impart to someone who maybe is making a decision to go from being a teacher at a high school in Florida to, you know, working their way up to A&R with Britney Spears and vice president of Right Entertainment Group?
Oh, that's a packed question, but
you know me.
I think simply, I mean, it's about understanding opportunity. And I think sometimes we have opportunities in front of us, and you know, you kind of have to jump in, a planned jump in. You're gonna jump in and swim, but it needs to be a little bit planned. So I don't want to say just. So I think that, you know, for me, I had an opportunity because I had two students in school that wanted to be musicians and producers, and there was nothing in the high school. So I started researching. So that's how I ended up. And also I think that I can't sing a lick. You guys would be embarrassed if you heard me sing. I only sing around the house loudly, that no one can tell me to shut up because it's my house. So, but I think that understanding your skill level and where you fit in. And I think for me, I, you know, just from teaching kids and then just dealing with people, and also, you know, having someone that believes in me too. I think Tim has been integral in my life as my investor. And, you know, he's been amazing because he believed and trusted me. And then also just keeping people around you like Brent and I have done a couple projects now. We've got a couple more that we're doing. And so I think you surround yourself with people who believe in you and support you. And I think it's still very difficult for a woman, especially a woman of color, to be able to sort of be heard. But I think what you try to do is, you know, get good at one or two things and you keep working it. I think everybody on this call right now understands that nothing really does happen overnight. I know, Sammy, you had a hit immediately, but that didn't happen overnight. You spent those 16 years perfecting
it took
voice,
9 years
right?
for another person.
Yeah. And so from the day you're born, I think that those are learning years. And I mean, even though we don't think we're learning and moving towards something, but I think that, you know, I didn't get into the business until, you know, I was in my 30s. So I had a lot of other years to sort of perfect interpersonal skills and things like that. So I think it's just, but always understand when an opportunity is presented to you, take a chance.
That's right.
You know, Theresa, don't be ashamed about not being able to sing, because I can't bodybuild.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah.
Well, I love that advice because I think it really wraps into something that is kind of a personal ethos of mine. I work for Fountain Street Church full time. I am a salaried staff member, but I'm also a filmmaker and a podcaster. And so a show that I started in 2015, it's called Super Hungry: Conversations with Not So Starving Artists. And I've gotten to interview some just incredible people and kind of all through the spectrum. And one of the questions that I love to ask during those conversations is, how do you view failure? And how, if we are thinking about it in a term of improvisational comedy, there's this idea of yes-anding something. Someone presents you with an idea and you say yes to it and you add to it, right? So with this idea of failure, this concept of failure that is so personal, right? It's different for all of us. How do you move through that, and how do you yes and a failure?
Are you asking me or
anybody? Anybody can really take it.
I was just going to say, failure for me, failure is very necessary.
It is.
For success, but I think the problem is sometimes people don't evaluate their failure. So always making sure that you understand why you failed, and then trying to change to move forward for success. So that's
I know without failure there is no success.
Absolutely.
You have to run to that brick wall and figure out how to get around it or go over it or whatever, but you can't let it stop you, because that's where you get your strength. That's where you get that confidence. And when you win, oh, what a reward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Appreciate it more.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Well, it's that saying that, you know, Edison didn't fail making a light bulb hundreds of times. He learned how not to make a light bulb hundreds of times, right? So I think with all of this, right, with the idea of being a working artist, even now what we're seeing is our industries are all fluxing. And, you know, Sarah can speak to this too as an independent venue, you know, booker, and you guys all understand as musicians, like the industry fluxes, the nature of filmmaking fluxes. We're seeing, you know, movie theaters, what's going to happen in movie theaters, you know? So in all of that, how important is it to be able to kind of be flexible, like in your own practice, so that you don't lose the passion for it in all of that, I guess? Because it's hard. Like, life is hard, work is hard, trying to make stuff that connects with people consistently is hard. You know, I'll stop talking because it's a really long question, but I've appreciated, especially during this time, a lot of the perspective of, like, you know, sometimes you have to live life to be able to talk about the life that you've lived, you know, or express the life that you've lived.
Right.
So in those times of maybe like hibernation or quiet, you know, how do you charge yourself back up to keep going and to keep that passion alive? And that's to everybody, filmmakers, musicians, that's a question across the board.
I actually want to add to that. I think for Terry and Sammy and Vito, because you have such a long longevity in your career, from the time you started until now, I'd love to hear how you guys have transitioned over those years, because it is very different. The music industry is very different. So I'd like to, you know, add a little bit to that question.
You can become a chameleon, you know, without totally changing yourself.
Right.
You just have to see where the world is going, where the industry is going, and you just make subtle changes along the way so that you can slide in. You fit in a little bit, and then you start building from there. You start to learn. You asked about failure. You know, it's not only about failure. There are 1,000 other things that prepare you for this, to be able to survive. And rejection is also one of them. You know, we've been rejected 1,000 times probably in our careers, and all it has done is made us stronger and found us other ways to get through the maze.
Right.
So, you know, so those are the things that make it happen. And more importantly, it's the love of what we're doing. That's the most important thing that keeps us going.
Vito, I remember you told me that, and I'm serious, because when you said it, it came back to me just as clear. You said it before. You said you've got to be a chameleon in this business.
Absolutely.
You got to be able to change as the business changes. You got to keep moving with it.
And you know, I had a sign in my office. I had made the sign up, and I planted it right over my desk, and it said, "If you don't appear, you disappear." You know,
Right.
And any circumstances, no matter what it is, you just keep plugging and keep putting your face out there. Sooner or later, something is going to happen. If they don't see you, you know, they're not going to be calling you.
That's right.
And you know, and that's why I kept recording I went from the Chips to the Fantastics, and we had a couple of records, and then I went from the Fantastics to the Impacts, and then I went from the Impacts to the Imperials, and then from the Imperials to Little Anthony Imperials, and then to the OJs. And I kept evolving. You know,
You went from the biscuits to the dinner rolls, though.
But you know what? But by me having that first hit record, it instilled something in me that not to give up.
It can be done. It can be done. That's what
Right, it can be done.
Right, you know, and I wouldn't take no for an answers, you know. And then when this group got lazy, I went to the next one. You know what I'm saying?
So,
I mean, I was determined to do something in show business.
yeah.
You know?
Take it.
But I didn't know where I would end up. But I was determined not to give up show business. As a matter of fact, when I did my second gig, first of all, when I did my first gig at the Apollo Theater, the headliners was the Cadillacs. Bo Diddley was the co-star. Screaming Jay Hawkins. The Heartbeats had out 1,000 Miles Away. The Schoolboys had Please See It, Say You Want Me To.
Oh yeah, right.
Anyway, we were the worst act on the show. I was so embarrassed. As a matter of fact, Honey Cole took out one of our songs. So we just ended up singing one song, Rubber Biscuit, right? I wanted to quit show business.
You get the hook?
Oh, no, not quite. And the applause was very polite. It was like, you know.
Thanks, Mom.
Wait, I mean, the theater was packed. I mean, and everybody else was hitting it, you know what I'm saying? And that week, I wanted to quit show business so bad, I didn't know what to do. Well, so what we did, we had 10 days, and the next performance was going to be at the State Theater in Hartford, Connecticut, right?
Yep,
oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So what me and Paul Fulton did, we took the Cadillac steps, and the Bells was on the show. Just had Over the Night out, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So we took some of the steps from everybody, and that first morning. Oh, and then we got some new uniforms, and we had some routine.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't take Jay Hawkins' coffin, did you?
No, not at all. Okay, but anyway, we didn't know how to bow. First of all, we didn't know how to bow. We was bumping into each other.
Oh, you kidding?
Yeah. Oh no, I'm serious. But the next time we got a chance to go on stage at the State Theater in Hartford, Connecticut, about 10 days later, we had new uniforms and we had little choreography and whatnot. We could
good.
bow together.
Yeah.
Listen, when I exited the stage from that early show from that morning, I looked up to the Lord and said, "Show business is my life."
Well, that's what I said before. I said it take a little from everybody.
I'm so serious. And I knew that I was determined I was going to make it in this business.
Good
but
for you.
At that age, it's 16 years old, man.
Good for you. Good for you. If you take a little from everybody, you won't be creating yourself. It's like taking a few things, put them in a blender, turn it on, and when that comes out, it's
and
you.
your own concoction. Right.
Yeah.
Well,
A lot of Terry in me.
We are kind of winding down. I don't want to keep everyone too long, but I'll have a kind of a last question. Sarah, if you have a last question, mine doesn't have to be the final last question, but so obviously you're talking to me on behalf of Fountain Street Church. We are a multi-faith community. We call ourselves pluralists, so pretty much anything that you believe or practice, we accept, affirm, and validate as true, right? Because we all have our own relations to each other and the world and the way that we connect. And one of the things that we've consistently been trying to do with a lot of these events is get to this idea of what is a spiritual experience for you? So what does it mean to you in the terms of like a connection that is ethereal or I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? A transcendent moment. So art, I think, is a really great way of having these moments. And no one has to speak to any of their particular faith background unless you want to. Again, we are all open and affirming, but how is music in your life? How is art? How has performing been a spiritual experience for you?
Can I grab that first?
Please do.
With Only Have Eyes for You, that was a God experience. George Gordon had given us 33 songs, and I knocked out 32 in a minute, told everybody what I wanted them to do, you know, and had the music written out for the musicians in the studio. But I Only Have Eyes for You was it was too corny for me. I couldn't feel it the way, and I remember hearing Dick Powell sing it. Was like, oh, it was just so white bread, you know. And like, I was laying in bed just trying to find something on my guitar. I had a bad habit, laying in bed and just playing my guitar and thinking, and I fell asleep and I heard the chords, like Sammy was talking about those 3 chords before the song started. I don't know where it came from. It didn't come from me, it came from God. He gave it to my hands because like when I woke up, everything I heard in that dream, I was able to duplicate it. I called the guys at 4 o'clock in the morning and said, I've got the last song, come on. They didn't want to come. They said, it's 4 o'clock, do it tomorrow. I can't do it tomorrow. I can't remember this. After, I need it now because we didn't have cassette, we didn't have cassettes or anything that could record it real quick.
Right.
And so they had to come to my room and I showed them everything that I heard, the harmony structure and the bridge of it. It was like so beautiful and heavenly. And like, here's what's strange. Nobody liked it. Flamingos did not like it. The guys didn't. They said, oh man, well, you wake me up for this. George Golden said, Terry, this garbage. This doesn't sound like 50s music. I said, it came from God. I said, it's an experience that it happened through my body and I was able to project this. And they all thought it was garbage. They thought it was a waste of time. George said, I put on the album anyway because I'm not going to waste my money, but damn, Terry, don't go in the studio like that no more. Without me, I've got to approve everything before. So Good Night, Sweetheart was supposed to be our release. Good night, sweetheart, till we meet tomorrow. And the DJs, when they heard it from the album, they listened to it and they said, damn. And one DJ called the next DJ in Washington to Baltimore and from Philadelphia, New York and Chicago and LA. I mean, it just started spreading and the DJs, they chose it and it wound up being our biggest. And today, I just heard it again, it won't die. The song will not die. I don't know any other song that's doing what this one has done. It's called, what is it? Christine Applegate, what is it?
Dead to Me.
What is it?
Dead to Me on Netflix, right?
Dead to Me.
Yeah, Dead to
Yeah.
Me. Thank you. And I'm hearing it again. I mean, it was just something. And so to me, that song, it's a spiritual song because it touches, it's something, it's a mysterious sound. It's like, it's a loving sound. It's a heavenly sound. And it won't die. And I just had to tell you that because I have to give God the credit for it because like I was just there and he used me to get it out and I'm so proud that it's still moving, so I know it couldn't have come from me.
And I told you that, Terry. I told you that.
I know you did.
Yes. I mean, recently, listen, recently, about 2 weeks ago, those 3 chords said a whole lot, man. And that song is like Sam Cooke's "A Change Is Going to Come."
It's going to come. Yeah.
Or Etta James, "At Last."
Yeah, at last,
well, yeah. I mean, that's a special song, man. Really,
it is.
It's special.
Still doing it.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, that's what catapulted you, away from everything else that you had been doing. I mean, "Kiss from Your Lips" is one of my favorite songs.
Mine too.
"I'll Be Home" was incredible. I could go on and on, and "Love Is Never Say Goodbye." I could give you credit for every one of those things and say those were the best. But when you did "Only Have Eyes for You,"
that's right.
I mean, it was. I'm gonna tell you something. I mean, it looked kind of strange, might sound nuts, but I told you I had an accident. I lost the sight in my right eye. Well, when I got married, I picked as a wedding song "I Only Have Eyes for You," and the band that I picked was the hottest band in the New York area, and they were all Italian. They didn't speak English, but they sang phonetically everything in English perfectly. Okay. And I told them I wanted them as my wedding song. I wanted to be "I Only Have Eye for You." So the guy said, "He said, Vito, don't make fun of the way we're talking." That became my wedding song, and I have it on tape. "I Only Have Eye for You." But that song was such a great inspiration to me to know that it was possible for a 50s group to blow through all of that nonsense and become a professional leader in the industry. And I'm so proud. I was always proud of that for you. I loved it.
Thanks, Vito. Thank you.
Well,
why does it's kept? It's still relevant today, really.
Oh yeah. Oh,
It sounds good today.
What about just two kinds of people in the world? That's nothing to sneeze at.
But I'm telling you.
You know, I mean, you guys, you know, you guys did pretty well for yourselves too. You know.
Tears on My Pillow. I mean, because the Tears on My Pillow was from George Golden's label.
Yeah, yeah.
And hey, man, it was so beautiful. I mean, you know, Anthony, he always had another style. You know, I couldn't. He hates. Don't call him Doo Wop.
No, but you know what? Going Out of My Head is my favorite.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, of all the ones from Teddy, and you know, those 3 songs, man, they were just really. That took you guys in outer space. You know, it was so strong. But I'm talking about those first songs that, you know, like Tears on My Pillow and all that stuff. Like, see, it wasn't Doo Wop.
No, it wasn't.
Anthony, you know Sammy. Anthony, do not call me Doo Wop. I mean, he won't work for you if they call the show a Doo Wop show. Anthony will not be on that show.
As well, he shouldn't. He shouldn't.
Well, it's worse for me because I don't like to be called a wop. You know?
It's one of the funny things, one of the funny ironies of the documentary is that
you crazy.
Documentary about doo wop music, but we open the film by giving 15 different answers on what is doo wop. So
well, and
right from the very beginning, we're trying to tell the audience there is no such thing as doo wop. It's a documentary about doo wop, but doo wop doesn't exist. And we say that right out of the beginning. It's like here, very quickly, 15 different answers on what is doo wop. It's
really rock and roll
at
act.
the end.
When we first started,
R&B.
we were a rock and roll act. Nobody knew from doo
You're
wop.
right. It was rock and roll.
Doo wop
I
came,
what
I
the
think,
word
about
doo wop came from.
1970. Somebody gave it a doo wop name because of the background in some of the songs. Doo wop, doo wop, doo wop. You know, so that hung on. Same thing with oldies, an oldies concert. I mean, you know, those kind of tags are, you know, they bother me to a certain degree. I mean, classical music, finding you know, classic sounds, anything pioneering. If you find a decent word that means that, good. That puts me years ago, and I don't mind that. You know, I don't mind being in the early stages of this business. But you know, you can't categorize every song is not a doo-wop song.
Right, and
Little Star was not a doo-wop. It was not a doo-wop song.
Doo-wop puts you in a box. It puts you in a box, and that's all you can do.
Absolutely.
You know, and I know what you mean.
That's the box. They put you in that box where you don't get a hanger in your dressing room to hang your suit bag.
Right.
You don't get any towels and you don't get any water. You know,
Right.
that's that box.
Yeah, that box.
We did. We tried really hard, I think, to try to let the audiences know right from the beginning is that, yeah, this is not doo-wop. This is great music. This is rock and roll.
Yeah.
This is R&B.
Right.
Look, you use whiskey. You had whiskey, chaser. You know, I mean, are you kidding me? You want to call those guys doo-wop? I mean, that stuff was almost classical music crashing with gospel music. I mean, the harmonies that were coming out of those guys.
Right.
I mean, that was an experience of a lifetime. I loved working with them and great bunch of guys. So you put a good combination together for the doc. You know, I always was very happy about it. And
that was Theresa. That was definitely Theresa. She was she worked so hard on tracking all of you guys down.
I know she did.
We would throw out names, and Theresa would be like, "All right, let me see if we can find them."
I apologized to her many times. You know, like I said, I was coming off of a pretty bad health situation, and and like I said, she hung on with me too. So I was just proud to be there, and I was very, very happy to be any part of this whatsoever. And you get a chance, you give Tim my best too, and tell him I thank him too. You know,
you're a sweetheart, Vito. You really are.
Yeah. Well, Vito didn't tell us. He drove to New Jersey to do his interview, and not one word until the end of the interview. And he's like, "I'm going to go home and have heart surgery." And I think your mother, it was her like 90-something birthday. He's like, "Yeah, I'm going to go do this." And then my mother's birthday. And we're like, "What?"
Wow.
Yeah. He never said anything to the end of the interview. So
I remember we did Sammy's interview.
I gave my word, you know. That's
Bro.
Sammy was our first interview, Theresa. And one of the things that we were doing with the doc producing, because there hadn't been any books on this, there's been no other docs. So you're kind of learning this as you go along. And I got to say, you know, Tim and Theresa allowed us to kind of explore and figure this stuff out. And Sammy was our first interview. And I think we had scheduled you for Sammy for like 2 hours. And at like one point, Theresa's like, you've had him in the seat for 6 hours, Brent. You've got to let him go. We've got to go feed him. He was under the lights, I think, for 6 hours.
we ended up having to take him to dinner.
Yeah, take him to dinner.
The dinner out of it.
Meal penalty. Come on.
he was talking so much, he knew dinner was on the schedule.
Right. We just couldn't stop. And I remember with Terry was coming in and was producing those Boys to Men tracks, but he came in and did his interview in the morning. So he would, you know, he interviewed, and literally Theresa was like, he's got to go work with Boys to Men now. You got to let him go. And you know, just get the tab.
That was fun, though. That was really, that was good. That was fun.
Oh,
and,
absolutely.
You know, going back, you know, memories, you can't buy a memory. Like, you know, if you have a good memory, keep that memory.
Yeah.
Keep it alive. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Well, I think that's what we've been really, I think that's what we've landed on through sort of, you know, doing the Screen Club and then kind of doing these other events where we're looking at art in a way that you would maybe dissect a book or something. We're giving validity to new forms of art in a way that, you know, that you would give weight and gravitas to like a big book that's the history of Doo Wop. Why wouldn't we give the same gravitas to a film that is this? Because like I said before, you know, the way that we're learning, the way that we're processing information, emotions, it's all evolved so much. And so I love the idea that even just in this, listening to all three of you talk together and then kind of listening to the different memories of the shoots and stuff, and then hearing you all talk about each other's songs, I have to tell you, that clearly was a spiritual moment for the three of you in the bond that you share from having been together in your own separate journeys, but then together in this.
Still together, yeah.
You know what I mean? And so just listening to you talk, it was so clear that the respect and the love that you have for each other and your extensive bodies of work, you know, the awards that you've all won, the accolades, the continued careers, I think at the end of the day, man, those moments of transcendence and of connecting with people, I mean, I would guess those have to be part of the favorite memories, because that then is what is lasting forever, right? Like I just had a baby, so of course now my whole thought is like, oh, then one day he's going to be an adult, you know. So it is what we leave behind that is so important. And I think, you know, your music has impacted me as a person well before I got the opportunity to work on this documentary. But truly to have the opportunity to talk to you all in such a intimate conversational way and see the respect and love that you have for each other has been such a truly now spiritual moment for me, because you know, film is a democratic art. Music requires so much teamwork. So knowing that the journey is almost the more important part, right? It's always great to have the awards and the records and the accolades, but it's the doing of the thing that is the thing, right? You know,
you know the true indicator of what this is all about. When we do a show together, there could be 5 acts on the bill, there could be 6 acts on the bill, it could be 3 acts on the bill. There is absolutely no competition between the acts.
That's right.
Everybody's pulling for the other act.
That's right.
Everybody wants to see them do well. And it's never been about I'm better than they are, I'm going to blow them off the stage, and I'll show them what it's like. And there is no competition.
We don't have that
ego. A mutual admiration society. Yes. And it's lived with us all these years. It has to, because before I made my record, I was listening to these songs and I was idolizing these people. Now I'm working with them. They've become friends. And now as friends, I still see them as idols when they take their suit on and they put it on and they walk out on that stage. My idols are on stage. My friends are backstage. And that's the way I look at it every time I do a show. I love them more than as much as my own family. I love every one of these guys that I work with.
You touch my heart, Vito. You touch my heart. You do it every time. Vito has such a love. Vito has such a love for this business and for the people, like what you just expressed. No. Who can top that? No. Who can top that? Because it's real.
No, I talk from my heart. You know, I used to put signs all over my office. And one of the signs I had was, you may not like what I'm going to say, but it's always going to be the truth.
That's right.
You know? I love that.
You know,
honestly, what a great way to end, like, what a great note to end on. You know, I guess my favorite part of any interview is we can go around, and if anybody has any plugs, anything coming out that you want to promote or give a little promo to, this will be on YouTube tomorrow. So anything that's coming up that you want to let anybody know about, or anything like that?
Well, I do. I have a shout out that I like to let everybody know what's happening with me and my record, I Only Have Eyes for You. I'm so proud to say that it's on the Nancy Sinatra show, and she's featuring nothing but her father's music, and I'm on that same show. My music is being played right along with the great Frank Sinatra, and what a thrill for me to, you know, experience it and be a part of it. And so it's tomorrow night. We've been on Sunday, and we've been on Tuesday, and tomorrow's Thursday. It will be at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sirius XM. It's called Siriusly Sinatra, and that's channel 71. And it's Nancy for Frank, and it's hosted by a very dear friend, Chuck Granata. He made it happen, and he just thinks the world of it. He's also going to put a thing together of all the input and feedback that he's getting from people as he's playing this. And after the show is over, the people that are calling in and, you know, Facebooking him and emailing him about how much they love this song, I Only Have Eyes for You. And I would really love for everybody to pay attention to it, because it's a beautiful love song. Love songs never die, no matter how they're said, because Frank Sinatra does 3 of them, 3 different styles from different, you know, arrangers, and Count Basie's was really big band, jazz, really hip. And in other words, a good song can be recorded in so many different ways, and so many different artists hear it in different ways. So I'm really proud to be a part of the Frank Sinatra show with my song. And he does I Only Have Eyes for You too. You know what I mean? The way he does it's like, all right, all right, all right. And thank you so much.
I just want to say, everybody continue to stay safe.
That's all. That's it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Wear the mask, wash the hands.
That's it.
I just wanted to say how great this is.
It was done well. It was done very well.
Yes,
you know, the proof is that this is the best music ever.
That's right.
Everybody can say where they were when they heard a certain song.
Yeah.
And that's the key. If they can tell you where they were when they heard something 60 years ago, that tells you it's the best music ever.
Right.
One that Theresa and Tim and I, we talked about from the very beginning with the film was we always said, I've always believed that if you're just exposed to something, you know, if you just are exposed to a great painting, you'll recognize a great painting. If you're exposed to great music, you'll recognize it as great music. You just have to get through the clutter to hear it. And that was always our goal with the film. As Uncle was saying, I grew up with this music because that's what my parents listened to.
Yeah,
so
right.
I recognized, you know, when I was a very little kid, you know what, this is just better than Air Supply, you know, or whatever was going on in 73 or 74. I'm like, this is just better. And so we really brought that belief to the doc that, you know, we just want people to hear the music, because I've always believed, if you just hear I Only Have Eyes for You, or, you know, if you just hear Little Darling, or if you just hear Little Star, you go, holy hell, that's a great song. And you just need to hear it. And that was always our goal. And that's what we hope happens with the film is, so if you're watching this and you know, you've been hearing these great stories, you're meeting these great artists, go pull up an iTunes playlist, and I promise you, you're going to love this music. You're just going to love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, I love it. Well, I think that that's a great way to end, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us. Sammy Strain, Terry Johnson, Vito Picone. It's been truly an honor to just get to meet you and talk to you.
Nice
Theresa
meeting
and
you.
Brent, it's always an honor to talk to you, but I've been in your living rooms, so it's yeah.
Thank you for having us, though.
This has
Thank you,
been so
Virginia.
fun.
Thank you.